Do you know what that theme song means? That's right. It's another episode of the Senator Omer Raines Show. We invite you to listen to us at 1180 AM KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast radio station, as well as around the world on americamatters.us. The creator and the host of the show invite you to come join us here at the Reno Town Mall, get in the audience, or get behind a microphone. You can also text in questions to our chief engineer, Craig Moss, at 775-237-2266. But if you would like to speak with Senator Omer Raines or his guests, that number is 844-790-TALK. Again, it's 844-790-8255. Without further ado, let's get to the creator and host of the Senator Omer Raines Show, Senator Omer Raines.
Thank you, Eddie, for that kind introduction. Hello, folks. I'm Omer Raines, welcoming you to America Matters Media, broadcasting this program live to the world, not only in English, but by way of translation in various other languages as well. As listeners of this program know by now, by my choice, it is intentionally eclectic in nature. Thus, it doesn't focus solely on one topic or subject matter. Moreover, whatever the topic, whomever the guest, we encourage diverse points of view. Therefore, we welcome comments or questions from the listening audience. The call-in number, as Eddie indicated, is 844-790-8255, or if you wish to text us your comment or question, that number is 775-237-2266. Okay, with that in mind, I want to introduce you to today's guest. We are really privileged to have a gentleman from Europe, Professor Przemyslaw Osiewicz, a distinguished professor of political science at the noted university in Poznan, Poland. He's also secretary of the Research Committee of the International Studies Association, a board member of the Polish International Relations Association, as well as the Asia and Pacific Association. In addition to obligations at his own university in Poznan, Professor Osiewicz has lectured or taught, among others, at universities in Sweden, Cyprus, Taiwan, Turkey, Belgium, Iran, and the United States, Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. He is also the author or co-author of over 60 scientific articles. I could go on and on, but let's not waste our precious time with this distinguished guest. So without further ado, we welcome you, Professor Osiewicz.
Good afternoon, Senator. Good afternoon, everybody.
I apologize, by the way, if I butcher your name during this program, so please bear with me.
Oh, Senator, thank you very much. Well, your pronunciation is perfect. I do appreciate that. So it's a good job. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Very kind introduction.
Well, Professor, let's start by getting the reactions overseas of the election results last week here in the United States.
Oh, yes. I can tell you something about the reactions in the European Union, and more precisely in my home country, namely Poland. Well, I think it was a big surprise. I would not use the word shock because I think that it's not inappropriate, but it was a kind of surprise that Donald Trump has become another U.S. citizen, and it was a kind of surprise to European politicians and including Polish politicians. It's something that they had to adjust to the new situation because, like in the United States, everybody was convinced that it was Hillary Clinton that was to become the next U.S. president. Well, the situation on the ground, however, is very positive. First of all, 2 days ago, as far as I know, Donald Trump called the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, for example, and he assured him of the American engagement in security and military operations in Europe. He assured the Polish president of American military presence in Poland. And as far as I know from media, official public media in Poland, he also declared that the United States is not going to change its policy, its attitude towards the Russian Federation and the unlawful annexation of the Crimea Peninsula in Ukraine.
Well, I want to get into that specific area in a few minutes, and we're going to drill down there. But right now, I'd like your answer to the following. Given the Brexit vote in the UK, followed in short order by the results here in the United States. What do you think might be next? I mean, we have an upcoming election, I think, next year in France, and Marine Le Pen seems to be gaining strength, and a lot of others on the far right of different European countries. What do you see coming down the road?
Well, Senator, I think that it's a very good question, because what we are witnessing right now in Europe is the kind of, I would say we have a growing problem with democracy, and we have a bigger and bigger problem with social acceptance for institutions. It seems that more and more EU citizens don't accept the existing institutions, the existing political order. So more and more people vote in favor of populist parties and nationalist parties, and of course it's bad news in terms of European integration itself. And we witnessed such changes so far in Hungary, in my home country, Poland. We have this growth of nationalist tensions and feelings in France and Germany that you have mentioned. Well, I suppose that the most interesting situation next year may take place in France with Marine Le Pen and her National Front. They have more or less the same tactics like the people who were responsible for Brexit had in the UK, or people who backed Donald Trump here in the United States. They have a very similar tactics, namely, they are very clear that we are anti-immigrant, we will not accept refugees, we will to some extent close our borders, we will rather focus on our national economy, try to protect our internal market, try to protect our labor market. If your situation is bad, that's because of immigrants, that's because of people from Central Eastern Europe, because they come and take your jobs. So we will see probably the same rhetoric, and the same may happen to Germany, although I think it will be to less extent than in France. All in all, the situation is not good, and it's not going to be very positive, both for Europe and I'm afraid also for the United States.
Well, what you seem to be suggesting is that European countries are really just as much polarized as the United States. If in fact you're right that we're seeing the rise of right-wing populist nationalist movements in Europe, and I'm going to assume that those, like here, are caused by austerity measures, income inequality, lost jobs, immigration, perhaps Islamophobia, given some of the incidents, the terrorist incidents that have occurred in Europe. Is that in fact the case?
Yes, I agree. I mean, for example, in Poland, we observe this polarization of society. I've never witnessed anything like that. The situation we have right now is really tense. We see people representing the conservative government who openly criticize liberals in a very aggressive way, and the same thing happens from the liberal camp. There is a kind of political paranoia we witness there. The situation is stable, there is no danger, economy is boosting, but at the same time, well, even in families, you have people who openly support the Conservative Party and the other support the Liberal Party. Before that, it was not a problem. All of them could sit together, have dinner. Right now, politics entered houses, entered private spaces. Somehow people got polarized, even at workplaces. It's something which is something that is understandable during political campaigns, electoral campaigns, but it's something that we cannot really get used to and accept after the election, when we should actually all get back to work and do our job. Well, I think that's the most negative consequence of the situation we have right now. And all in all these things have something to say, they are somehow connected to economic problems we witnessed after 2008.
Well, you and I have both talked about, or at least mentioned, Marine Le Pen's, and I'm going to bring that up again after we take a short commercial break.
Hi, this is Jake Wiskerson from Zephyr Wellness. Did you know that in its first 18 months, Zephyr gave back more than $28,000 to the community? This came in the form of donations, sponsorships, volunteer efforts, training sessions, and pro bono counseling. If we've done that much in just our first year and a half, imagine what we can do in the decades to come. We're proudly making good on our mission to contribute positively to our community, and we invite you to join us as we strengthen and heal Northern Nevada.
To find out more, visit us today at www.zephyrwellness.org.
See that nice young man over there? He just fixed my windshield.
What was wrong with your windshield?
A rock chipped it. And Safelite told me if they repaired the chip, they wouldn't have to replace it with a whole new windshield.
Oh, that was nice of them.
And they sent me his picture so I'd know what he looked like.
Ooh, that's reassuring. You know, he is awfully cute.
You're right about that.
Did you have to throw the rock very hard? Safelite repair, Safelite replace.
So, Professor, when we left off after the mention of Marine Le Pen's, we can pick up there. She and the National Front Party, which she leads, has been in the international press now for several years as that party and as she gains more and more visibility. And it has been of concern to a lot of people. But isn't that true in many of the countries of Europe? I mean, isn't that emerging in Holland, for example, or in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders? I think in your own country, the Law and Justice Party, some of the Scandinavian countries, aren't we seeing that throughout? People worried about the culture being changed in ways that is perhaps too abrupt?
Well, I agree. Something is going on in Europe, and it's not a good thing. Well, first of all, when you want to have an open society, it has to be an open society. I cannot imagine an open society that is somehow it's exclusive and it's not inclusive. That's what's gonna happen to some European states. Once you close your borders, you don't accept immigrants. You don't accept other people only because they are just different or they have represent different cultures. Well, it makes sense from the at first, but when you think it over, when you just get into details, when you start analyzing that, you understand that actually you could benefit thanks to these people. Your culture can benefit, your economy, you can benefit from they say from the life in your and the activities in your country. I mean, there are countries in Europe like Hungary, like Poland. Unfortunately, there are countries with almost no refugees because most of these refugees, they simply in Hungary, the situation is that they simply cross Hungary, but they go to Austria, Germany, or Scandinavia, but they don't stay there. But still, most of people are very negative about them, only because they are refugees. So some politicians use this in their rhetoric. They use a word, for example, refugee, along with the word terrorist, and they make them synonym, which is what is very harmful to both refugees and citizens. Once citizens start to perceive these people as a source of danger, it's over. Well, there is no trust. People don't trust other people. I don't remember a situation like that in the past. I think there was no problem, especially in 1990s or at the very beginning of the 21st century. There was absolutely no problem with that, with multicultural societies in Germany, in France, in other Western societies. Right now, it seems that it's over. Partially, it's understandable, and it's the consequence of bloody terrorist attacks, especially in France or in Brussels, and some small-scale attacks in Germany. But still, is it enough for politicians to declare that we'll seal off our countries will not accept immigrants because all of them are bad people, all of them can become terrorists, all of them are terrorists? Well, I think the answers are obvious. in this case.
Well, speaking of Germany, Angela Merkel was probably the most popular elected leader in the world, and she has opened Germany's borders and welcomed refugees. And it would seem, based on polls, that has harmed her politically. What do you see with respect to her re-election, which I think takes place next year? Maybe it's the year thereafter.
Well, I think that it's still possible that she will win. That the Christian Democrats will win the elections in Germany one more time. But still, can be by very narrow. The win can be very narrow. So again, there will be a need for a bigger national coalition with the Social Democrats, and that's what probably will happen. We'll see what's going to happen there, because we have Alternative for Germany, another political group, a new one, which is anti-immigrant, anti-refugee, anti-systemic to some extent. They are very successful in some lands, especially in eastern lands of Germany. Well, once they are very successful at federal level and they enter Bundestag, I think it's going to change a lot in the German parliament. So that's really interesting. I think that we'll see more parliamentarians in Germany representing right and far right parties than left and leftist, what was quite common in the past. So there was always a kind of balance in Bundestag. I think next year will be the first one where we can lose this balance, and we'll have more right and far right representatives in Bundestag with the, to some extent, anti-immigrant rhetoric, what can be dangerous, taking into consideration that there are many immigrants in Germany, or people of immigrant descent, or they come from families of immigrants, including...
Let me interrupt only because the listening audience in large measure is English-speaking, that when the professor refers to the Bundestag, that is the name of the parliament in Germany. And so put it in that context, and everything he just said makes absolute, complete, 100% sense. So let's go now to your own country. The polarization you've mentioned is in general throughout much of Europe, including your own country. But your own country has a special problem, and that is, I would think, extraordinary concern about Russia's expansionistic policies. I mean, we know of the annexation of the Crimea. We know of incursions into other parts of the Ukraine. What concerns are evident in your country of Poland, and what do you believe to be Putin's intentions?
Well, Senator, you're absolutely right. People in Poland or in other Central and Eastern Europe countries are very concerned with the, I would say, I call it a new Russian foreign policy. This ground opening in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea and de facto aggression against Ukraine. Well, it's something. Well, if anybody had told me, let's say 5 years ago, that anything like that can happen, I would have never believed that. That was something out of question. Last week, I talked to one of my Ukrainian colleagues in Washington, D.C., and he comes from eastern provinces. So he was on the spot when everything began. When he told me that he was so scared seeing Russian planes, military planes landing in his hometown, I mean, Russian soldiers appearing suddenly from nowhere in the middle of the street. Well, you can imagine that the situation was very tense. I can tell you that in 2014, even in Poland, people were not so sure how far President Putin can go with his new aims, with his new policy. Everybody thought that if he was, let's say, so eager, so in quotation marks brave to take over eastern provinces of Ukraine and annex Crimea, well, that he could go even to Estonia, Lithuania, why not Poland? Well, Russians stopped, but I think there's one reason, geostrategic reason for that. Actually, Russia has already achieved all military aims of the campaign, so they don't need any more. They have this connection, land connection with the Crimea. They control the whole Ukrainian, eastern provinces of Ukraine. They are building a new bridge which will connect the Russian mainland with the Crimea, and we'll see a new geopolitical situation on the ground.
But even without that bridge, I think to the northeast, doesn't Russia border Poland? I mean,
yes.
Poland has this history of being invaded by the Soviets and then by the Germans and back and forth. That's why I asked the question. Of all countries, Poland probably is as concerned, if not more so, than any other country.
Well, that's true. We have a border to the Kaliningrad region, which belongs to the Russian Federation. Is the most militarized area in the world, and as we know, and there are many articles about it. There are many comments. There are many intelligence documents about it. I mean, we know that Russians transfer more and more military equipment to this area. What for? Nobody knows. But the best answer is of NATO side is, and I'm quite sure most of Americans know it. We have new American troops, new NATO troops in Poland and Baltic states. There is one single reason for that. There is a growing feel of danger. People feel endangered. I mean, the risk of aggression is very low, I agree, and I do hope that it's going to be that, or that will eliminate the threat. However, I think NATO has to respond. The United States has to respond to this threat. If we don't show President Putin that we are really determined to keep the NATO alliance alive, that it's a living alliance, that it's in place, that we are ready to counteract to such acts of aggression, then it's gonna be positive. It's gonna be okay for countries not only for countries in Central and Eastern Europe, but also for West Europe and for the United States. If we fail to do so, it may have very grave consequences, not only to NATO but all other states in the area.
So you seem to be suggesting, before we go to commercial break, let's very quickly ask this. You seem to be suggesting that the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia are endangered the same way as Poland to the same extent, and they probably are. Are they reacting the same way people in Poland are reacting?
Well, as far as I know, they invest more and more in military equipment. For example, that's the case of Lithuania or Latvia. They invest more and more money in military equipment, so they try to strengthen the military capability. And it's the same in Poland. So we have a new military reform plan.
Okay.
There is a budget allocated for that for 10 years. It's more or less in US dollars. It's more or less from 35 up to 40 billion.
Okay, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We need to go to another commercial break, but we'll be right back.
Big Brothers Big Sisters of Northern Nevada is asking you to step up and mentor a child in need. It's easy, and better yet, it's fun. In just 1 hour a week, you can literally change the life of a child for the better forever. Visit bbbsnn.org or call 352-3202 today to volunteer to mentor a child in need. It doesn't matter what you do. Hike, bike, read, eat lunch, play board games, do homework, or simply sit together talking. Spending time with a child in need is all it takes to be a friend, build trust, and most importantly, to make a difference. So what are you waiting for? Volunteer now to become a big brother or big sister and start making a difference today. You won't regret it, and you'll have a ton of fun too. Call 352-3202 or visit bbbsnn.org. That's 3 B's, 1 S, 2ends.org.
Hi, I'm Bill Kendall. I've practiced law in Northern Nevada for over 25 years, and I specialize in representing injured people in their fights for just compensation and in representing parents in custody and visitation disputes. I've tried over 20 jury trials to verdict. I've arbitrated or mediated hundreds of personal injury cases on behalf of clients to successful conclusions, and I have personally handled every single case from start to finish. I am also a court-appointed mediator for the Washoe County Family Court Division, where I help parents negotiate custody and visitation plans. With me as your attorney, you can rest assured that your case will be handled competently and that I will be responsive to all of your needs and questions. My goal in every case is to have clients that are satisfied with the outcome of their case and who would recommend me to others. Give me a call at 775-324-6464 or visit my website, billkendalllaw.com. My number again is 775-324-6464.
We're back again. You're suggesting that Poland and the Baltic states and others in East Europe and probably West Europe are relying very, very heavily, as well they should, on NATO. But I'm sure you're aware that some comments were made during our election campaign that certain conditions precedent are going to be established, perhaps by the United States in connection with funding of NATO by NATO nation states before that alliance remains as intact as it has been all during the Cold War up to the present time. Are European countries now facing that reality or potential reality?
Well, I think I heard this comment of when Donald Trump as a presidential candidate mentioned that a few times, and I listened to his speeches. Well, it's something that can concern governments in Central and Eastern Europe. Well, as I said before the commercial break, well, in Poland we have this new plan, reform plan for military, and we are going to allocate more than $35 billion for new military equipment, and still so far we have invested a lot, buying, for example, F-16 fighters from the United States. So we are right now ready to cooperate with NATO forces on the ground. Well, if the question, Senator, is a very good one. Whether European states are ready to, let's say, invest more in security, just to share this burden together with the United States. I think it could be a matter of negotiation, but I think that all politicians, also here in the United States and in Europe, should bear in mind that what's our aim? Our aim is common security, that we depend on each other. I mean, America and Europe. As long as we are together and we are in this military alliance, political alliance, economic alliance, maybe in the future, let's hope, we'll be able to stop acts of aggression. We'll be able to put a wall to actions of the Russian Federation. And as long as we do that, we are safe. Once we stop to cooperate, once we start quarreling and counting money, it can collapse, and it's going to be very bad for all of us. So I think the stake is very high here, and all politicians should bear it in mind that it's not about another reform, internal reform or an internal change. It's all about security. It's about just to make sure that states will prevail and they will function well in the future.
Well, I do think that Trump touched a sore point when he talked about the fact that the United States, quite frankly, has been the police officer or cop of the world, and that we have actually, and some of them tiny, some of them large, 4,000 different installations around the world, and we have so much invested in supporting, whether it be Japan or Germany. I could go through probably 170 or 80 of the 200 nation states in the world. And we are trillions of dollars in debt now, 18 going on $19 trillion. And I do think that a lot of Americans are really concerned about the extent to which, but basically we're subsidizing the security of many, many countries in the world. And I do think the president-elect is going to expect other nations to perhaps pony up a few more dollars. I think, what's the NATO, 2% from each country of the GDP, somewhere around there. And that hasn't always been done.
Well, I agree that, as I said, it shouldn't be this way that only American politicians, including President-elect, are to decide about it and take this burden. Well, I do believe that European leaders should also sit down, think it over, and analyze this matter in a very serious way. Try to figure out what we can do better, whether we can spend more on military or not. If yes, on which equipment or which systems, what threats are the most potential, the most probable in this case. I think it's a huge task. There was as you I'm sure you remember, there was a NATO summit in Warsaw in July this year, and it ended up with a big success, because now we will have deployment of new troops, joint troops in Poland and Baltic states. And let me tell you that we will send our soldiers, although we will have some new American soldiers on our soil, but still, the thing is that we as Poland, we have to share this burden. So we will receive American soldiers on Polish soil, but in return we have to send our soldiers to Baltic states, just to make sure that we will strengthen their defense there against any potential aggression. So I do believe that it should work this way. It should not all. Well, it means that not everything should be up to American taxpayers, up to the president-elect or the Congress. I mean, it should be clear, and it should be clear also to the U.S. citizens that we are in alliance, and alliance means that we share concerns, but we share costs of security, and in the end we have common aims. We have common enemies, common allies, and that's what I believe in should take place.
Well, I think the position you've just articulated is consistent with what the president-elect is looking for each country to step up and do its share, and just not expect the United States to bear the heavy burden. So we'll see how that goes. We've been talking about European countries for the most part, and let's touch upon one more item because it's critical. Can there be a political union with only a common currency? That is to say, you have a common currency. You did before Brexit, and if even there they had the pound sterling rather than the euro, but and the krona on Iceland, a few other exceptions. But be that as it may, without a true political unity and only a common currency, is that going to allow continuity for much longer?
Well, it's an open question, Senator. I agree that we have a kind of crisis of identity within the European Union. So it means that even EU citizens are not really convinced whether they are EU citizens or they are citizens of the national state. What is more important? I know there are some surveys conducted in Europe, and in almost all cases, they prove that EU citizens tend to think about themselves in national categories. Namely, they see themselves as citizens of the national states, and then only they see themselves as Europeans. If there is this lack of European identity, I agree that it's very hard to integrate, that it's very hard to build this common political entity, because you always have this German factor, and if Germans say something, you will always have Poles to say something else, or you will have Hungarians saying something, so you will have the French opposing them. It's something that we cannot change that reality within 10, 20, or even 30 years. I think it would take a few generations to create a society that would be partially similar to the society we have here in the United States. But there are, of course, historical reasons for that. In the United States, there was never, the United States has never faced the problem of national states here, although there are 50 states, but they are not based on national identities. They are based rather on geographical terms or economic terms. But in Europe, we had hundreds of years of national identity building, and now it will take a long, long time to remove them. Once we have a common identity, common European identity, that European citizens will simply say, I'm European. I'm not, I may be French, I may be Polish, I may be German, but first of all, I'm European. That's the moment where we can really start building a political union. Before that, we can proceed with artificial projects, and you can declare everything, but as a matter of fact, it may work, but only to some extent.
Well, the European Union, in my view, has really been anchored by Germany on one side and the United Kingdom on the other. Obviously, there are nation states, including Poland, to the further to the east. However, those are the two bulwarks economically, and they seem to be further apart, given Brexit, than ever before. So when you say a couple more generations, are they going to split further apart or come closer together again?
Mm-hmm. Now we will have a very interesting situation with the United Kingdom. If they invoke Article 50 of the Treaty of the European Union, so namely, on the basis of this article, the United Kingdom will be able to leave the European Union, simply will cease to be a EU member state. Once they do that, we'll have a completely new situation, because I think, yes, it's going to happen. We cannot stop this process. It will be for the first time. Well, I'm quite sure that the European Commission will do absolutely everything to show that the cost is going to be really high for the United Kingdom. Brussels would like to see all other EU member states to see that the cost of leaving is very high, and they will use this British case as an example. So I expect, that's what I foresee that it's going to be really hard for the United Kingdom, and the negotiating position is going to be very weak.
Okay. We're going to take our very last commercial break, Professor. Please bear with us. We'll be back right after these commercials. Thank you.
Healthcare is a phrase that gets tossed around a lot these days. From politicians in Washington to your physician right here in town, everyone seems to have a different conception of what it means. At Zephyr Wellness, it means recognizing individuals as human beings and meeting them where they are. It also means helping people identify and solve their problems, rather than merely coping with their symptoms. The team at Zephyr believes that good mental health care deals with the whole person and not just outward behaviors. Hundreds of people across all demographics have already discovered Zephyr's compassionate and talented clinical team. If you're struggling with family issues, substance abuse, depression, anxiety, or are just simply not where you want to be in life, call Zephyr Wellness at 775-525-1616 to schedule an appointment, or visit the website at www.zephyrwellness.org. Zephyr Wellness has offices in Reno and Silver Springs and proudly takes most insurance plans. Again, that's 775-525-1616 or zephyrwellness.org.
At Safelite, we know how busy your life can be.
Oh, no.
This mom didn't have time to worry about a cracked windshield, so she scheduled at safelite.com. And with Safelite's exclusive On My Way text, she knew exactly when I'd be there. Hi, Steve with Safelite.
Thanks for your text.
I replaced her windshield, and she didn't miss a single shot, giving you more time for what matters most. How'd you do?
We won.
Nice. That's another Safelite advantage.
So much.
Safelite repair, Safelite replace.
So welcome back, everybody. We have with us again Professor Osiewicz, from Poland, but he's here briefly in the United States, and we're taking the opportunity to interview this acknowledged expert in many parts of the world. In fact, given that, I know for a fact, because I've read about you, that you are an acknowledged international expert on the Middle East, which we've not touched upon. And that includes especially Syria and Iraq, which is in the news perhaps more than elsewhere right now. So whether we call it ISIS or ISIL or Daesh or by whatever name, we know what's been taking place there. Give us something about your background and the way in which you have been involved in that part of the world, deeply involved.
Well, the situation we have right now, it's really, of course, it's a new one. I mean, new in terms that it's just 2 years, but the so-called Islamic State was so powerful in 2014. Everybody expects the organization even to grow in the region, and in 2014 it seems that it's going to be this way. Today, with the siege of Mosul, probably with a new campaign against ISIS troops based in Raqqa in the ISIS headquarters in Syria. Well, the situation is changing, but still, what is not changing is lack of compromise between the key international actors, including the United States, the Russian Federation, even China, the European Union, or the Islamic Republic of Iran, and not to forget Turkey, which is a new player and tries to regain its position not only in the Middle East but especially in the Syrian conflict. Well, with Turkey, I think the situation is the most striking and the most dangerous one. Why? We now have we hear about preparation for this U.S.-backed campaign against Daesh troops in Raqqa in Syria. This campaign is gonna be military operation. This military operation is gonna be conducted by military forces which are predominantly Kurdish or Sunni, Arab Sunni. That's the reality, and they might be very successful if they get direct support from the United States, and its Secretary Ash has just declared that they have his support. They have support of the United States. Once it happens, they can go and really seek Raqqa, and we may get rid of Daesh once and for all. But the problem is Turkey is not supporting that scenario. Why? Because they don't want Kurdish forces to be powerful. They don't want that's the tricky thing between the United States and Turkey in bilateral relations. Turkey doesn't want the United States to give its artillery rockets to Kurdish forces. They are afraid that once they defeat ISIL, Daesh, they will try to strengthen their autonomy in Syria, and maybe in the future try to connect somehow with Turkish Kurds in Turkey. So the situation is quite interesting. That although Turkey is a member of an anti-Daesh coalition, at the same time, at the moment they don't do much to help this new with this new operation, and they are even to some extent harmful. They even block some new proposals which are formed against Daesh there.
Well, given what's happened, and you know, I fully understand what you're saying. I mean, the Kurdish people are over 3 nation states, and each of those has it as a minority. Each is wanting to keep them. I think Iraq, if there's ever such a thing again as Iraq, has already lost that portion to the Kurds. They have their own basically independent government. And I understand fully what you're saying about Turkey. Could this be, to some extent, alleviated by what may turn out to be a closer relationship between Russia and the United States than has existed, especially with respect to Syria? Because the United States basically has been focused on regime change, Russia, quite the opposite. Is that a possibility that perhaps Trump and Putin can work better together than Obama and Putin? I don't know.
Well, I think whatever happens and whatever takes place and will result in the end of this bloody conflict in Syria, I think will be absolutely worth of support. If President-elect, if President Trump in the future finds a way to sign an agreement, a real agreement with the Russian Federation, and both sides will be able to cooperate on this issue, I think it will be it may be the biggest external success of his presidency. I mean, everybody will remember that was Donald Trump who managed to stop the bloodshed in Syria, who managed to convince other international actors to stop meddling there. I think, Senator, you're absolutely right. Once we have the United States and the Russian Federation on board on this issue, both actors will be able to convince other regional players like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, or Turkey to follow them. Even if they have different opinions, they have their own interests. I don't think all of them would dare to oppose both Russia and the United States. But for the time being, we have a situation in which we have different opinions in Moscow, different opinions in Washington, D.C., different strategies. The West says there is no future in Syria with President Assad. Russians and Iranians will tell you that there is no future for Syria without Assad. So President Assad should be there, or at least, even if he's not the president, he should be able to live there, and people who are connected to him should be still represented in the government because they represent the majority of the society. And there are arguments like that. So it's going to be very interesting, but we should not forget that behind these political debates, we have people who suffer there every day in Aleppo and in other cities. 2 years ago, I had Syrian students who were refugees from Syria, very clever students from Damascus. They were absolutely frightened with what was going on then in Damascus and in the suburbs of the city, calling their families almost on a daily basis a few times, their relatives, parents, brothers, sisters. That was something new to me, and it opened my eyes that when you see these individuals, when you see these people, you don't only hear about them, but you see them, how they suffer, how they are frightened. It's something that really tells you, yes, we have to do absolutely everything to end up this conflict. So I do hope that President Trump and President Putin will find the best way to do that as soon as possible.
Well, what's happening in Mosul right now is obviously an international crisis, and it's got to break the heart of anyone in the world who knows what's happening. But that may take place again in Raqqa, we'll see, and elsewhere. You mentioned in passing, Professor, very quickly, you mentioned the country of Iran. Again, I know that you are really recognized as an international expert on Iran. You've written a great deal, and I know you've been there. Can you explain to us, please, the role that Iran is playing right now throughout the Mideast?
Well, Iran wants to be perceived as a key regional actor, and actually, Iran benefits from the current turmoil in the region. I mean, the weaker Arab states, the stronger Iran. That's the reality on the ground. So they took advantage of the situation situation in Egypt, for example, when they supported and they had this kind of alliance with President Morsi when he was in power there. They started meddling in Yemen. They are present in Syria right now. They are very strong in Lebanon. They are extremely strong in Iraq. We should not forget that the Iraqi government survived actually thanks to the Iranian support in 2014. If there had been no support from Tehran in 2014, I'm sure that Daesh troops would have taken control over Baghdad. That was very likely to happen then. and nobody was able to help the Iraqi government. Only Iranians were very eager to do that, and they sent their troops to defend Baghdad and just to. They did their best to stop Daesh troops.
Is the long-term goal of Iran to have the Shia government replace of the Sunni government of Saudi Arabia as the leader of that part of the world? What is the long-term goal? I think
it's one. Senator, you're absolutely right. The biggest enemy of Iran is not the United States. It's Saudi Arabia. There are big ideological differences between both sides. There is a big level of mistrust on both sides of the Strait of Hormuz, and they would do absolutely everything to make sure. I mean, Iran would do absolutely everything to let's say block Saudis in the region.
Okay,
so we have this kind of rivalry there, and the consequences we can witness both in Syria and in Yemen right now.
Professor, we have 30 seconds left. Can you provide contact information about how people might dig further into this, how they could contact you, and things of that nature, and also mention why you're here in northern Nevada right now, just for a few days, I know.
Well, I'm here. Thank you very much. I'm here. I was invited by the University of Nevada in Reno, so I would like to thank both the University of Nevada and the Reno community for the invitation, and also because I am a Fulbright scholar. I'm based at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I would like to thank the U.S. Department of State, especially IIE program, and I'm here within the Fulbright Outreach Lecture Fund program. Thanks to that, I have a few lectures here in Reno and Tahoe. So I'm very happy to be here. It's a great place. I do enjoy every day being here in Nevada. It's a great state. Well, if anybody wanted to contact me, please Google my name. You can contact me, or you can send me an email. It's msp04@wp.pl. So everybody's welcome to email me. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Professor. Again, folks, our guest today has been Professor Przemyslaw Osiewicz, and we appreciate his expertise, his knowledge, and we hope we've educated or helped to educate a lot of people. Thank you again, Professor.
Thank you very much for your invitation, Senator. It was a real pleasure.